I don't know whether you're aware of publication of the Mahasi manual. It's about meditation, particularly Vipassana. It comes in 2 volumes. This was his masterwork. He gave many talks, and many of them had been transcribed. Even after he passed away, they weren't able to complete it. I heard that when it was completed, one volume got lost. But there's this other publication that came from US. I remember reading it. Of course, I read it in Burmese. There were no English translations then. At the time, I could read Burmese. Now, all the mentikato. But what I learned from the book remained in my mind, especially certain very important points. It's interesting that after so many years, I read it in the 70s, 50 years ago. I get to read it now in English. My Burmese those days was okay, because what I read was what I understood, the same as now read it in English. For example, in the first part, before talking into the actual insight, it talks about the concentration. For example, he quoted about, of course, there they have to quote and re-quote Tipitaka, Pali, commentaries, sub-commentaries, otherwise they will be accused of something sacrilegious. He quoted about this momentary concentration. And he quoted clearly the commentary to the Visuddhimagga, that momentary concentration is equivalent to absorption concentration in terms of function and so on. Another interesting thing is, which may be useful, that he gives 6 points for the development of concentration. One is overcoming obstacles of the past, overcoming obstacles of the future. This refers to the Penseri, thinking. This comes with the restlessness, and the restlessness comes with all the rest of the defilements. But the past refers to all those past things, objects. The older you are, the more past things you have in your memory baggage. And when you are still young, you have a lot of dreams of the future. Do you have any thoughts over the future when you're old? Yes. What do you think about?
Yes.
Huh?
Yes, I have.
Yeah, like what? Like what, for example?
All things I have to do, I can do.
That's the immediate future, not very far. Very far? How long do you think I'm going to live? Then the third is laziness. Just lost on topo. And fourth is overzealous. Zeal, overzealous. Too motivated. For example, in the way lazy, you are advised to reflect, to arouse the energy. And when you are too overzealous, you try to relax, take it easier. Fifth is do not be contented with good results, and do not be frustrated when you do not get any results. The first one is associated with craving. The second is associated with aversion. So these 6, which are actually 3 pairs. So if you can deal with this, then generally the concentration will arise through the continuity of the practice. Sounds very reasonable. Suppose this works in the case of normal people. But what is normal can be quite difficult to define. For example, In the early days of my teachings, that is maybe 50 years ago, it is normal to get concentration after 3 to 4 days for beginners. Nowadays, it is normal to get concentration in 1 week. In certain cases, you're normal if you don't go mad in 1 week. Actually, 1 week is the critical point, So today I'm going to, before I really go deeper into the practice of Satipatthana, talk about the hindrances. Well, in case you don't know, there are these 5 hindrances. Prima ekikosa, let's just go. Prima astakole, Brahma says. So craving. Second is hatred. Ill will. Patika, ill will. Third is sloth and torpor. Fourth is restlessness and worry, or sometimes you can use the word remorse. And fifth is skeptical doubts. And this is the classical categorization of the obstacles to right concentration. Because each of these come and hinder the development in a special way. For example, sensual pleasure starts with temptation, then it ends up with obsession. Anger or ill will starts with dislike, ends up with explosion. Loss and torpor, laziness, sleepiness, bored, and ends up in the bed. Restless and worry, it comes with those thinking, ends up with going home. Skeptical doubts, of course, end up with just getting confused. This helps us to first, this type of teaching first helps us to recognize it and be attentive to it. Then the more important is overcoming it. Because when you notice it, then you can identify with it, and then you know what to do. Usually after 1 week, most of these hindrances are overcome, provided you have the right method, starting with knowing what is mindfulness. Secondly, you're not a time bomb. You have heavy psychological problems. Today is the second or third day. We'll see. I don't suppose there will be. Usually we are very sensitive to this type of energies. In the beginning, you only have to take care of 2 things, thinking and sleepy. Just to, either you fall asleep or you keep on thinking and thinking. Simple. So when you're not with your meditation object, that means you either must be thinking or sleeping. Yeah? Simple. So if the car engine is off, you start it again. This is bring back your wake up, But when your car has gone off the road, you bring it back thinking. In other words, bring back the mindfulness. The reason why it stopped and it went off the road is because the mindfulness is not there. So you must make sure you bring back the mindfulness. People thinking, you say thinking, stop. Then it goes another thinking, stop. Thinking, stop. Think here, think there, everywhere, think. Oh, MacDonald has a big head, he goes thinking. Because he just stopped one thinking and start another one. There's no mindfulness. Oh, you're sleepy, so sleepy, you wake up, oh, I'm so sleepy. Close your eyes, sleep back again. Oh, you're sleepy, you fall asleep. And you wake up, sleepy. You're not mindful how you're going to wake up. In simple cases of restlessness, if you are persistent and you know what mindfulness is and you stir up the mindfulness, then this thinking and the sleepiness will naturally go away. But make sure you bring up the mindfulness, not something else. I'm sleepy. I'm all feeling sleepy. I must wake up. Ah! You're not bringing up mindfulness, you're bringing up anger. So sometimes I tell my friends, previously I had problem with sleepiness. Now I don't have any more problem with sleepiness. They say, wow, how do you do it? If you're sleepy, I sleep. What's the problem? Even the Sayadaw says so. Because he says, if you want to sleep, you can, but you sleep in the hall. That means you sit like that and you put your head on the floor. And you can sleep. Of course, it's very difficult to sleep like that. The idea is you don't have aversion towards it. Or any of the defilements. The aversion just makes it worse. It's just like, well, if somebody coming to you, talk, yakety, yak, you just sit there and, oh well, sit back and just look at how the person talks, how his face, his mouth. Well, sooner or later they're going to stop. Sometimes they can be quite persistent. For example, I was sitting on a train to Hindrances from Piacenza. There was a couple sitting next to me and they were talking and talking. Non-stop. Then after that, suddenly they stopped. Then look at the man. So difficult. He was trying so hard. Cannot survive, cannot speak. Within 1 minute, he started again. These people are very difficult to meditate. But in most cases, you just be detached to it. Maintain as much mindfulness as you can. If you are persistent enough, it goes away. It works even in the most serious cases. For example, certain deep-seated defilements, they are quite latent. It may come because of long-time habit, or it can become because of past karmic conditioning. And for example, I met one person who has this terrible tendency of sadism. I mean, ordinarily you see him, he's not like that. He has a good life, but there's this terrible side of him. Nobody knows. But in meditation, you cannot escape. That's why when some people they cannot control, they just burst out. So you make the person really sit still and watch it. And you think finding things come out. Then you see certain types of mental objects arise. In this case, it was war, guerra. Then this life, no guerra. Must be past life. Well, depending on the gravity of the situation, sometimes you have to use samatha. This will soften the defilements. For example, metta. I'd like to give this example that this lady, she has been diagnosed as a schizophrenic. When she does metta, it's all right. You let her do vipassana once a day, she goes off. And when she goes off, even her face, and the color of her face, the form of the body changes. It's uncanny. Because we trace it back to abuse, childhood abuse. So she cannot do vipassana, although she knows vipassana is good because intelligent lady. But metta, okay, she can go into concentration, no problem. It's not the type of people who go thinking, not that type of people. So you go metta, she can get into concentration. It took her more than 10 years before she can do vipassana. No, she's very good in vipassana. Probably 10, 15 years, something like that. Many retreats. But no need medicine anymore. So, these are special cases. But still, it comes under the root of the defilements. In terms of the roots, we say the three unwholesome roots: craving, anger, delusion. When you talk of hindrances, you refer more to these negative forces in hindering your development of your right concentration. But on the whole of the practice or in existence itself, you talk of the unwholesome roots. Craving and delusion are the twin roots of dependent origination. And from these two arises the aversion, anger. That's why the aversion is removed in the anagami state. And yet there still persists craving and delusion. Craving and delusion is eradicated completely only in the arahata. The fact of saying that anger is radically removed only in the anagami, it shows how deep this root is. And you look at the three roots, the main culprit is the delusion. Delusion is always at the background. When craving arises, it tends to be more active. That's why in Abhidhamma, delusion can come alone, but craving and anger has to come with the delusion. And so when you first try to overcome your hindrances, you watch them at a grosser level. You want to have a better control of it, then you have to watch it at the level of the roots. When you zero in on delusion, and it becomes more of a holistic control. Although delusion, the root of delusion can be rather subtle, but I would encourage you to try to recognize it even at the early stages. Of course, in the beginning, when you are still not so mindful that you handle it at the level of hindrances or what to do. When you have sloth and torpor, you try to bring up as much energy as you can, either through contemplation or through encouragement. In terms of ill will, you can either wash the ill will itself, and after that, if it doesn't work, you can use metta. In terms of sensual craving, then you think of the dangers of sensual craving, and so on. But when you go into a finer aspect of the practice, to be more thorough against all unwholesome states, then you need the mindfulness to catch it, the delusion when it arises. These are like blank faces. For example, you're mindful, suddenly there's a blank hole there. Boom. Rising, falling, rising. Boom. Nulla, niente, nothing, nessuno. So two things happen. Either you fall asleep, or you still have a lot of energy, then you start thinking of nonsense. That means some other object comes in. When it's more active, it is like active thinking. When it's not so active, it's more like dreamy. Usually it's nonsense. So you can catch those moments, then the mind can go into a deeper concentration. Now, I have time, it's okay. It's interesting also to look at how the factors of concentration deal or overcome the hindrances. For example, you talk of this overcoming of these hindrances as described in the samatha jhanic factors. That's the concentration of jhana, or the 5 jhanic factors are the main factors responsible for bringing up the concentration. Now these things are mentioned in the Visuddhimagga. I didn't make them up. Kamachanda, sensual desires, are overcome by ekagata, one-pointedness. By the ekagata jananga, by the kamachanda, the sensual desires are overcoming by the vyapada, ill will, is overcome by sukha factor. Sukha is the happiness jhanic factor. Tinamida, sloth and torpor is overcome by vitaka, initial application. Uddhacca, kukucca, restlessness is overcome by piti. Piti, that is joy. And vicikicca, skeptical doubts, is overcome by vichara, sustained application. Now in terms of vipassana, the overcoming of hindrances is partaken by other mental factors. Kamachanda is removed by nikkama, detachment. Vyapada, ill will, is overcome by avyapada, that is non-aversion, which is a kind of acceptance. Tinamida, sloth and torpor, is overcome by brightness. Because vipassana, the vipassana mind is not like samatha mind, which is it's very bright. Uddhacca, kukucca, restlessness, remorse, is overcome by avikepana, which this translates as non-distraction. Actually, it means peacefulness. And vicikicca, skeptical doubts, is overcome by Dhamma vavatthana jnana. Translation is discriminating knowledge. It adds one more thing. Avijja, delusion, is overcome by knowledge. This part comes from the Mahasi book. What is interesting is 5 minuti va bene. He also describes 4 types of one-pointedness of concentration. First is based on generosity. He describes it as when you, let's say, you want to be generous, and then your mind has to develop some degree of concentration in performing that act. Because it means something more than just a beggar come and give him something more than that. Then the second is tranquility of one-pointedness in tranquility meditation. This is talking about the samatha meditation, the jhanas and so on, which of course is more deeper. The third is the one-pointedness that comes at the knowledge of dissolutions. It refers to the 5th insight knowledge. And so this is a purely insight one-pointedness. And the 4th is from the knowledge of cessation. It refers here to the Maggaphala, the supramundane state of Nibbana. Yeah, so it tells you clearly the concentration is there, but depending on the nature of the object, it comes as a completely different experience. And so the results are completely different. Stop here tonight.